Well, thank you guys for inviting me to your meeting tonight. I always enjoy coming to Bachelor County and visiting with folks. I was in this same room, I think it was last week. The days start kind of running together, teaching a class, so I spend a lot of time over here. But like she said, my name is Lauren Cannon. I've been with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission for about 7 years now. I'm the Nature Center manager out of the Ponca Nature Center. So if y'all have ever been over to see the elk, you may have stopped by my Nature Center. If you haven't, you should come see me. We've got some really cool exhibits to look at, and then there's classes and stuff going on there all the time. So I think it's pretty neat. I actually grew up in that area. I'm a Newton County native. My family was some of the first settlers in the Bachelor Valley in the 1800s. And that's, we were talking earlier about the Buffalo River, and you know, they were actually part of the eminent domain seizure in Boxley Valley, where they had their land taken for the creation of Buffalo River. But they were, you know, part of the families left and part of them stayed, and I'm thankful mine stayed because what an awesome place to grow up. I don't know if any of y'all have spent much time in Newton County, but I like to compare it to Mayberry. Things move a little slower there, and that's the way I like it. So I'm really thankful to get to raise my children there. I went to college at Arkansas Tech University and got a bachelor's degree in agriculture business. And then I went to the University of Arkansas and got a master's in agricultural and extension education. My life plan when I left high school was to be an extension agent, and I did that. And I got a job in Russellville and lived there for about 5 years as a 4-H agriculture agent and loved my job. And then I had my first child in 2016, and I was like, man, I miss my mom. And so one day, you know, it was kind of just one of those things that I think was meant to be. I was looking online for actually at jobs for my husband and came across this job with Game and Fish in Ponca. Applied and got it and was able to move back home, and so my kids are going to school where I went to school, and you know, I'm really thankful to be there. So anyway, that's a little bit about who I am. It sounds like you guys got a little taste of Game and Fish recently. Hopefully you're going to see a completely different side tonight, because what I do compared to the fishery stuff, totally different. So this is the mission for Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, to conserve and enhance Arkansas's fish and wildlife and their habitats while promoting sustainable use, public understanding, and support. And so what does that mean? This is how we serve our mission, and what you're looking at is all the different divisions that we have within our agency, and there's a lot. Some of these divisions are very small with just a handful of people. Some of them, like the one I'm in, the education division, we have around 60 people there. Enforcement is the one that a lot of folks associate when they think about Game and Fish, you know, the guys that write the tickets. I don't do that, so, but whenever I talk to school groups and young adults and they're thinking about careers, I always like to tell them this, you know, just because you don't want to work with fish every day of your life, or just because you don't want to, you know, do the bear den surveys like the picture that had gotten shared on y'all's Facebook page, that's not all we do. You know, we have people that are accountants. We have people that work in human resources. We have mechanics. You know, there is a whole world out there when you're talking about game and fish, and it's for everybody. There's somewhere that you could fit in, no matter what it is you want to do in life.
Yeah.
So like I said, I work for the education division. If you're not familiar with Game and Fish Nature Centers, we actually have 9 throughout the state, and they're spread pretty well all throughout the state. Like I said, I work at the Ponca Nature Center, and something that a lot of people don't know is that Arkansas is one of only a couple of states that has a conservation sales tax. And what that is 1/8 of 1 cent of every dollar or every penny you spend in Arkansas. You know, whether you go buy a honey bun at the the gas station or whatever, it comes back to conservation. And 45% of those funds come back to Game and Fish for conservation education, and that's why I have a job. That's what I do. I do education not only at my nature center, but kind of all over the state in a lot of ways. I'll get into that a little bit about what my actual region is, but I teach classes in Little Rock and everywhere else, depending on what the need is. So, but that's one of the key ways that we're funded. Of course, we're also funded through hunting and fishing licenses. But that conservation sales tax is its purpose was for these nature centers to be created and for this free education to be provided. And that's what I tell everybody whenever I teach classes. I'm never going to charge for the classes I teach because you've already paid for it, right? That's a really cool thing that we're able to do. I also listed, so all the nature centers are listed there. Like I said, we have 9. The newest is in Springdale. So that's not too terribly far from here. So, that wouldn't be too bad of a trip. Some other programs that I listed on there are just other things that we do. And there's more. That was just the ones that immediately came to mind. Becoming an Outdoors Woman is one that I work a lot with, and that's actually in October. I will be teaching at our state Becoming an Outdoors Woman event in Little Rock. And so that's something that we do throughout the year and throughout the state. And these are programs that are designed specifically for women to get them in the outdoors. So there's stuff like that always going on. We do a lot of teacher professional development, like through Fishing in the Natural State, Hunter and Boater Education, Project Wild. All of that is teacher professional development. And we provide these classes to teachers and give them free curriculum then to use in their classrooms. Like Fishing in the Natural State, they're able to, we teach them fish dissection, and you end up getting a couple $1,000s worth of supplies for your school for fishing education. And so, there's a lot of great things that come from that. I know you guys mentioned the school volunteer stuff coming up, because that's very real now. That's something Game and Fish is doing too. We're trying to provide some volunteer opportunities for these students because they're going to have to get them somewhere. So that's something that we're working on as well. Family and community fishing ponds. There's actually a couple right here in Mountain Home. So I don't know the correct pronunciation, if it's Ammons or Ammons. Ammons? Is that okay? Ammons, now I know. But I have taught a few trout fishing classes there, and so those are things that Game and Fish does as well, based on population of an area. We have these stock ponds for people to fish in. So our education division is broken up into regions, and so as you can see, there's 8 regions, but I said there was 9 nature centers. So this region is considered North Central, and we are actually the only region in the state with 2 nature centers. We have my nature center in Ponca and the Crooked Creek Nature Center in Yokeville. And so I work really closely with the staff at that nature center, and we both offer classes throughout our 11 counties that we cover. Bachelor is one of those, and Bachelor is actually one of our most populated counties. We try to spend a lot of time in Bachelor County. I do several programs here at the library, as well as the extension office. I work pretty closely with them. So, and there's a list there. The types of classes that we offer are all over the board. So archery, birding, hunting and boating education, outdoor cooking, compass and orienteering. I don't know if any of you know Freddie Pinka at the Pinkston School, but I've worked with him some doing compass and orienteering for his classroom. We do school field trips. During the spring, we have lots of schools come to both of those facilities to do, we may do the fish dissection or something like that with the schools there. So there's a lot we can offer to people in our region. Like we offer that at our nature centers, but then we also try to get out to all of those 11 counties that we cover multiple times a year. So doing stuff like this is actually probably my favorite part of the job, because I'm not a desk girl. I don't like to sit at my desk and push paper all the time. And so anytime somebody asks me to get away from my desk and come meet new people and talk to people, I'm always on board with that. So like I mentioned, we have 2 nature centers. We do have 3 educators in this region. However, that doesn't include myself because I'm not technically an educator, I'm a manager, but I sure do a lot of educational outreach. So does Heather Pittman, is the manager at the Crooked Creek Nature Center. So we actually have 5 people that do the work in these 11 counties. So what makes my nature center special? And so we have a manager myself. I do have 1 educator that I supervise. I have an admin that, bless her heart, she stays at the nature center. I can count on her to be there 5 days a week so that I don't have to be. And that is the greatest thing ever. That there are certain times a year where I may see my office 1 time a week, and that's because I'm out doing stuff like this all the time. That's one of the greatest things about this job is the flexibility. So I work 80 hours every 2 weeks, and it's really kind of up to me how I do that. So during the summer, you know, I have two young boys. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I like to spend some time with them. And it's hard to find a babysitter, if we're being real honest, in Newton County. So I will try to put my Fridays and Saturdays, you know, work a little longer on those days so I can, like Monday I was off and I took them to the movies. So we're able to work our schedules around like that, and that works really well for us. So at the Nature Center at Ponca, we have 2 stories of exhibits there, all kinds of stuff. Of course, we kind of focus on elk because that's the thing there. We've got some very extensive native gardens. Like I said, we do school field trips. We offer public programming, and then, you know, if you haven't been to Ponca, it's a wide spot in the road, really. You know, whenever I teach classes, people ask me, you know, where I buy my supplies, and I'm like, Amazon, because there's nowhere to shop in Ponca. But I see, on average, 12,000 people a year come through my nature center in Ponca. And so we may be small and out in the middle of nowhere, but we definitely have lots of visitors that come through our area. Many of them are from Arkansas, but I see people from all over the country and even the world every year. I actually have a map when you walk in where people can pin where they came from, and that map fills up every single year. I change it out on January 1st, and it's kind of neat to see that people come there from all over the world to our little area. We're unique because that's where the elk are in Arkansas. That's where everybody comes. Especially fall is our busiest time of the year. The elk are in rut, they're bugling. If you've never heard an elk bugle, it's one of the weirdest sounds you'll ever hear because it's really high pitched, and it's just not what you expect from an 800-pound animal. We have the Buffalo National River. We're in the upper district of the Buffalo, and arguably one of the most beautiful places on the Buffalo. If you've never been to Steel Creek, the limestone bluffs there are absolutely breathtaking. And so it's a big attraction. The floating season there is very, very short. And so whenever we have ample water for floating, people are flooding in there trying to hit it because it's not something that you can do all that often. Something else that makes us unique is the classes that I teach or have been teaching over the last year and a half are not classes that are offered anywhere else throughout the state. And that's actually kind of one of the reasons that I was asked to come speak. I offer foraging classes that I teach here at the library regularly. And the way I'll do those is I try to focus on one plant in particular. The last class that I taught here was on dandelions. I had to think. It all kind of, like I said, it all kind of runs together. And so the dandelion class, we talked about how to forage for dandelions. We actually cooked some dandelions and let everybody taste those that wanted to. We made a dandelion infused lip balm that everybody got to take home. And so I offer classes like that. The main topics I cover right now are dandelion, purple dead nettle, and pine. And each one of those classes is unique in its own way, and we do a little something different with each class. I did develop a series also. I think I told you guys, I feel like I grew up in Mayberry, but my grandmother was one of these people that she was 94 when she passed away, and I think she was working in her garden until she was 94. She was a very hard-working woman, and I can remember, I mean, she made lye soap. We butchered our own hogs when we were growing up, and she made lye soap, and so I got the bright idea one day to start collecting the fat, the tallow from the deer that we were harvesting. And so I teach a class now to teach people how to make lye soap using the fat from the deer that they harvest. And then I also do canning classes. That's something that a lot of people in my generation don't really do anymore. I grew up doing it, it's second nature to me, and I love it. But I do fish and venison canning classes, and I'll do those, you know, all throughout the state and teach people how to do that. And so that's actually the Becoming an Outdoor Woman class that I'm doing in October will be a venison canning class. And so everybody gets to pack their own jar, and they can their own jar, and they get to take that home with them to use. So those are just things that I grew up being passionate about, and I'm able to kind of translate into my career. And so I think that's a really neat and really fun part of my job. So I did include a few pictures here. There's a picture there of the soap making class. That was a class that I did, again, I think it was last week in Melbourne. And then there's a class of a venison canning class. That one was done here in Bachelor County at the Extension office. The one with the oils and stuff out on the table, that was here in this room. That was our dandelion class that we had recently. On the bottom picture of all the kayaks, that's another class that we offer. That one was done pretty recently. It was an intro class, and so I didn't want people actually on moving water, so we met at the Ponca Water Bridge, where the water was just kind of pulled up, and taught people how to get in and out of their kayak and how to paddle without dumping over. So then from there, you know, that's step one. From there we'll graduate. We're trying to plan a class to float on Crooked Creek because it's a little tamer usually than my end of the Buffalo, and so that's something that we'll do. Do what?
Except for last week.
Except for last week, that's true. That was, so it was last week when I was in Melbourne. I finished that soap class in Melbourne, and it had just started kind of lightning and stuff, and man, the rain I drove through on my way home coming through here, and then the next day, you know, everything's underwater, so that was, yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to have been on Crooked Creek last week at all. That picture with us holding the geese, that's just to show you, you know, one of the things I love about my job, it is different every single day. You know, you also got to see the picture of me holding the baby bear. So that was something I did in conjunction with wildlife management. We do bear den surveys every year. We have sows that we collar and go find them in their dens, pull their babies out, and do health checks on them. And holding a baby bear is one of the coolest things ever. But I will say, I learned a good lesson. Bears don't den in convenient locations. The mountain that we had to climb to get to that bear was not fun. This is another thing that Game and Fish does though with the geese. These are Canada geese down around the Pine Bluff area, and we captured these geese. We probably captured 700 geese that day, and it was hot. It was really, really hot that day, but that was early morning. That was about 7 o'clock. We had just got started. And we caught those geese, and those that were banded, you know, we just checked off their information, and those that weren't banded, we put bands on them. So, you know, if you're a waterfowl hunter and you shoot a banded goose, I might have been the one to band it now. So that's just, you know, we get to do some really cool stuff, and like I said, it's always different every day. So that's just a little glimpse into my life as an education division employee, and so I just wanted to share that with you, show you kind of the things that we can offer. I do have business cards. If I said anything that you're like, hey, you know, I would like that for some organization, maybe even this one, then I'm happy to do those. But does anybody have any questions for me as far as what I do? Or, yes, sir.
What is the elk population in that part of Arkansas right now?
Right now, it's right around 400. It is down from what it has been in the past. So we hit a peak in 2016. at around 700 animals. And I don't know if you guys remember what happened in 2016, but we found chronic wasting disease. And so that's been really detrimental, unfortunately, to both the deer and the elk population. That year we sampled a lot of elk to try to establish the prevalence in the elk population. And so that dropped our number down between that and the hunt. And unfortunately, we have been seeing a little bit of a drop since then. And because of that, we have reduced our numbers that we allow to be harvested every year, and in an effort to try to bring that back up. And this past year was one of the first years we did actually see a little bit of an uptick in our population. The elk are not as susceptible, it doesn't seem, to chronic wasting disease as the deer are, but they are not immune, they do get it. So, yeah.
Did you get a chance to work with Phyllis Spear?
No, Phyllis had already retired by the time that I started, but I do know her, and I've met her for several
She's a
times.
special lady.
She
She
is.
lives here in this county. She
Yeah.
had that, a lot of y'all saw that. She had that cooking show
Mm-hmm.
on TV, and it was one of the most popular shows around.
Absolutely.
And her and that Philpott guy had more fun than a barrel of monkeys cooking
Yeah.
everything there was to cook. Anyway,
Absolutely.
it was fun.
And that's, we've got a nature center manager down in South Central Arkansas, Will Hafner, and he does a series called Cooking Wild with Will. And I mean, that guy will cook anything. I'm pretty adventurous on stuff, but I mean, he'll cook up raccoon and possum and anything he can come across. So.
When's your next class here?
My next class here, just give me a second, I'll tell you. I've got one scheduled, we do have one scheduled next month, but someone else is gonna have to teach that one because I got pulled into a meeting in Little Rock. There's pine. So I'm doing a pine foraging class here on October the 8th at 5:30 p.m. That'll be the next one that I'm for sure at.
Pine foraging inside?
Yes, so what we will talk about how to forage for pine, and in the pine class, we use some oil that I infuse with the pine needles to make both a face wash and a lotion bar that you can use. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, regarding use things that go on with Fred Berry,
Yeah.
since he's close here, where can the person get information on what things are available to use
Sure.
that are, and what they cost and those types of things?
So there's no cost for anything. Everything will always be free. The best place to find information is either on the Facebook pages. So my Facebook page is Ponca Nature Center. That's just Ponca Nature Center. Anything that I offer, whether it be at my nature center or out in the public like this, will be on that. And so you search Crooked Creek Nature Center, it'd be the same thing on Facebook. Or if you go to agfc.com and go to our, there's an education tab, and if you go to the events on there you can search by zip code or search by nature center and different things like that for if you're looking for programs. Like this morning, I helped with a program they had there for Marksmanship Challenge. That's a youth program where they shoot archery, they cast fishing poles and slingshots and BB guns. And so they'll be offering that again next Tuesday if that's something you're interested in. Yes. It is best if you can, if you go online to the Game and Fish website to register for those, because if nobody registers, a lot of times those get canceled. So the more registration we have, then we know, hey, we need to do this. So
Is that one gonna be at?
it will be at Fredberry. Yep. And we actually have a statewide contest that's Marksmanship Challenge, and this is the practice for it. So it'll be next Saturday, August 3rd at Fredberry. That's the one that we offer for our region, so I'll be there helping with that. And it's, they can win prizes. I mean, they do there's 5 different categories. They do all those things I mentioned. And they can win, there's door prizes just for being there, it's a statewide event. And so we'll enter in all the results, for all the different nature centers around the state, and then after the event's over, we may call you up and say, hey, you placed first in the state, and they give away, they gave away like BB guns and airsoft rifles, and I mean, there's some good prizes usually associated with that, so,
Thank you.
yeah. Yes,
Arkansas Tech, class of 67.
awesome.
Go Wonder Boys.
Go Wonder Boys, yeah.
There you go. With such a diverse work environment, what's the most unusual project you've ever gotten involved in?
Most unusual project, let's see. It's a tough question. I will say the goose banding thing was very unique, something I had never experienced before. I don't know if y'all have ever been around geese, but they're not very nice. Them things will bite you, and they will peck you, and they will claw you. So that when we were catching them, we tried to grab their head and tuck it under their wing to calm them down. But I came away pretty unscathed. But some of the guys I was with had bloody arms from getting scratched, and so I mean that was very unique. I think more than the projects that I encounter, I come across some really interesting questions, because there's this this thing where people think that Game and Fish deny that mountain lions exist. That's not true. There is not a large breeding population of mountain lions in Arkansas, so it's not something that we manage for. But I've had people ask me before coming to the Nature Center and say, how much does Game and Fish pay you to keep your mouth shut about all the mountain lions? Nothing, because I don't know what you're talking about. But there's, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that catch me off guard sometimes. Whenever people talk about, well, the elk brought chronic wasting disease to Arkansas. And maybe they did, we don't know, and we may never know. But that's, people act like we try to cover those things up, and that's just not true. But I've heard that we traded, whenever we got the elk, that we traded we gave some other state some largemouth bass, and in return they gave us rattlesnakes. That's not true. It's just, we have done trading with other states for reintroduction efforts and such. But to my knowledge, there has never been one where Game and Fish is like, let's get a bunch of venomous snakes and just start releasing them everywhere. So there are a lot of those conspiracy theories that come about. But I always try to handle that gently, because these people truly believe these things. But they're just not true. Yes?
Do you do anything with the swans down at Hebrew that?
I don't. As far as I know, Game and Fish doesn't either, other than offering, like birding opportunities and stuff, and that. But as far as like banding them or anything, I don't know that they do anything like that. There were a few swans in Boxley Valley for a period of time. And that was, people would come to Boxley to the Mill Pond to see these swans. Unfortunately, about 3 or 4 years ago now, they completely disappeared. They were released there. The idea was that we would release these swans on the Mill Pond, and they would follow their normal migration pattern, and they would come back to this pond as a resting spot every year. And it would be an opportunity for people to see swans in Boxley Valley. It didn't work that way, and the reason it didn't work that way is because there's a wide shoulder right there, and people would like to pull off the side of the road and feed these things. And so if you're getting free food, you're not going anywhere. So they never left, they became residents. And that's fine, except they became, it became a thing where, you know, they're gonna get hit by cars, or they become a lot more susceptible to predators because they're eating all this bread, and they're getting really fat, and they can't fly super well. But they did finally disappear, and as far as I know, there's no intention of putting any of
They
them back.
really feed them down there,
Yes,
big time.
yep, yes.
Kind of a sweet story. Steve Wilson, a lot of you guys know him. He lived here after he retired from the head of the Game and Fish. He died, and we spread some of his ashes down by his home, down by Norfolk. About a year ago, one of the places we spread a mother bear was walking through there with a cub. And it was like the mother bear was showing the little cub that this is where the man that got us back to Arkansas lived. It was the sweetest
That's
picture
awesome.
you've ever seen in your life. But
That's
anyway,
really cool.
Anyway, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's, so we did, Arkansas holds the record, I guess you could say, for, the most successful reintroduction of a large carnivore, and that was our bear reintroduction. Our black bear population is, it's exploded. We were able to have pretty, liberal bag limits now for hunting season, and so that's gone really well. A lot of people don't know that the reason we have a lot of the wildlife that we have is because of reintroductions. Because back before Game and Fish was Game and Fish, there was so much overhunting. There was it was trophy hunting, but then there was also commercial hunting for meat and stuff like that when it was legal. And so, people would just decimate groups of deer. And so we actually had to do a reintroduction of deer in the 1950s because it was to where, now it's like we see deer every time we get behind the wheel, right? they're everywhere. But in the 50s, that wasn't the case. And so they actually had to reintroduce those. And then the elk, while the elk that we actually had in this part of the United States was the eastern elk. It went extinct in the 1840s because of all that overharvest. So what we have in Arkansas now is the Rocky Mountain elk. And so while it's not exactly what was here, it's very, very close, and they have thrived here, obviously, because they've been here since the early 80s, so, yeah.
Where did they come from? Where did you get them?
Colorado and Nebraska. Yeah, mostly Colorado. We introduced 112 in the beginning, and only, 10 of those came from Nebraska. The rest were from Colorado. Yep.
What's up with quail?
What do you mean? Like,
There don't seem to be many quail.
predators, unfortunately. So, quail are one of those. Now, if you want to see or hear a quail, go visit the Ponca Nature Center in Yellville. There, every morning that I go out there, you can hear bobwhite's whistling, and it's really cool. But as far as having like a population that we can hunt, quail are, they're kind of like turkeys, only worse because they're smaller, and they nest on the ground, and so they have a lot of nest predators. And that's one of the reasons that Game and Fish tries to promote trapping more, and that used to kind of take care of that. Nobody traps anymore because there's no money in it. Used to, people would trap for a living because the furs were valuable, and they're just not anymore. And so a lot of those nest predators, raccoons, possums, fox, bobcat, all those things, they get into those nests, and if those eggs aren't able to hatch and to repopulate, we've seen that with both the quail and the turkey population. However, I will say the turkey hatch the last couple of years has been much better than it has in the last decade, so I'm hopeful for that. Yes?
Do you have any eagle nests in your Ponca?
Not that I've ever seen. I'm gonna say there are some, but I've never actually seen one. The reason I say there are some is because there are a lot of eagles that I see in the area. There was one instance, it's probably been 3 years ago now. There was actually up going towards Kingston on Highway 21, there was a wildfire up on the mountain. And so I don't know if that kind of drove them all down to the valley or what, but I have a picture where in the trees in this one field in Boxley Valley, I was able to count 10 bald eagles all together, and it was awesome. But they're definitely around there. So I'm gonna say yes, there are, but I can't tell you where to go look for it because I've never seen one.
We don't have a carnival, right? We might
That's true, that's true. I'm sure they're on the white too.
It's
Yeah.
the size of a car too.
They're what?
It's the size of a car too. and
The
there's
size of a
nothing-
car? Oh, yeah.
Every day the eagle comes by my yard over carrying a snake or a trout or something.
Yeah.
Every day.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Just hope they don't get one of these little dogs out there.
Yeah, that's true too. I always used to worry, we have a lot of course I have chickens too, but I have a lot of hawks around my house. And I had a little Yorkie poo dog, and I was always worried about her when I let her out because, I mean, she looks like a quail or something running across there, so.
What about the rabbit population? I know,
It's not hurting. There's rabbits, oh yeah, it's not hurting.
I just hardly ever see rabbits like I used to when I was
You
young.
need to come visit my house then. They,
You need to come to my house with deer.
oh, really? I would love to. Lots of deer, lots of deer.
Three in my
It's
yard.
nothing to have 20 deer bed down in my front yard every night.
Do you live in town?
I live out on the lake.
Okay.
Five.
Cause I know they do, if they are a problem, there are, like, I know Bull Shoals has, an urban hunting group where they will, you know, they'll take care of them in, areas where there's lots of houses and stuff.
They're a problem.
Yeah, they're a problem.
They eat everything, you know.
They do, yeah, they do. Do you have a question?
I live over by the high school,
Uh-huh.
and the last snow we had this year, I was told the next day that there was a bear coming through my yard and getting in the trash can,
Mhm.
and that there were, dogs chasing it. Is that really a possibility?
It's possible, absolutely. Yeah. The best advice I can give for bears is, you know, try to keep smelly trash and stuff, taken out regularly or closed up where they because that's, unfortunately, once a bear gets started after, smells like that, it's not gonna stop, and they will end up having to, capture that bear and relocate it to ever get it to stop.
They got the trash can lid loose, but it didn't actually get into it.
Yeah.
So,
And that may, so if it wasn't successful, it may never come back. But if they find a food source, like a lot of people, cat food is a big one. People will put out food for their cats and they're like, why does this bear keep coming on my front porch? Well, because it's got food that's readily available. That's, you know, people are afraid of bears, but they're lazy. The black bears we have in Arkansas, and they're very opportunistic. So they're gonna eat berries and, you know, they're gonna be primarily herbivores, but they're gonna eat that roadkill too because they're lazy, and that's the thing, easy food that they can find, so.
We have a resident there, I've got lots of pictures of him, even in the last week or so, but he loves soot feeders.
Oh yeah, they like the
And,
suet.
they will destroy all your soot feeders.
Absolutely. Yep. Other questions?
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if I was 30 years
Oh, yeah,
younger, I would
you
want
betcha.
your job.
I do have a really cool job, I will say. That's,
Yes, indeed.
of the jobs I have had, I have a lot of fun with this one, and, it gives me a lot of freedom to do the things that I enjoy, and so, I'm very thankful for it.
And thank you for coming tonight.
Anytime, absolutely, so, all right.